Okay, the number 5 is working through proper channels. We've got this thing called social capital. Social capital is a term that basically refers to social organizations, social hierarchies, basically people that have gathered themselves together to be able to learn things or do certain things. And in this area that we work, there's over 2,000 orphans. You know, when you've got an AIDS problem in a monogamous society, you got a big problem on your hand. But when you've got an AIDS problem in a polygamous society, which it is in Kenya and many areas of the developing world, you got a catastrophe. Because if you've got 4 or 5 members of a marriage, the probability that every single one of them is faithful is pretty low. And the probability that someone might be able to contract HIV and bring it back into that marriage is decent. And as soon as that happens, that affects the entire marriage. And I have a friend of mine who this exact same thing happened. His father had 4 wives, and they had about 20 children. One of the individuals contracted HIV, nobody knows who, and that's not really the important part. In a matter of years, all 5 of them died, leaving 20 orphans. And if you can wrap your mind around, yeah, if there was one, the neighbor or the uncle or the brother could take him in. But 20? What do you do with 20 orphans? And you've got a lot of children that aren't able to take care of themselves and pass away. You've got a lot of families who are extremely taxed because maybe under normal circumstance they'd be able to provide for their families, but now when they're caring for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 additional mouths to feed, you're not able to make any progress. And so we wanted to be able to set up an orphanage in this area for fairly obvious reasons. And when we got on the ground, we were excited. Oh, I think I just skipped, so let's just go back. Oh.
Let me go back.
We can do this? What do you want me to do?
Hit menu.
Do you want me to hit menu?
Yeah.
Menu.
Okay.
You want to get me back? Awesome. Let's just click it. One more, baby.
That's the next one.
Yeah, we're going to go with this right now because I actually made a mistake in my order here. So we're actually talking about working through proper channels. The slide said working through proper channels, and I was talking about building social capital. And you guys are supposed to be like, what are you guys talking about? Because you're talking about the wrong bullet point there. So let's talk about working through proper channels for a second. One of the major problems with a lot of organizations is that what they're doing is they're setting things up so that they come in and they implement a project immediately without being able to respect or buy into or understand that there's actually a system in place. There's actually a protocol. There's actually traditional leaders, there's actually political leaders, there's actually rules, laws. Believe it or not, it's a developing country, but they actually have things in place to be able to govern certain things. And when you come in off the boat and you build an orphanage, you build a school, you name it, and you don't work through the proper channels, you reach a tremendous amount of resistance. And you hear, and I've heard this a ton, humanitarian organizations griping and complaining that, oh, those leaders are so corrupt, we're just trying to educate the children, they won't let us to be able to do that, they've got to be able to pay all these bribes and stuff like this. Okay, well, a lot of times those bribes are actually called fees. And a lot of times the reason that they got in such a big problem is because they actually broke the law. They actually did something they didn't have the authority to be able to do. And so of course you're gonna face resistance. And so in setting up our school, this is a couple pictures. This is the traditional leader, he's the chief of the area. So being massively connected to Chief Dickens and being able to work with him is critical. This right here is the division officer, which is a political leader of something like a county, you might say. Making sure that you're connecting with them, making sure that you're understanding the rules and regs that you need to be able to follow, and bringing everyone on board and getting buy-in at that level. And this right here with the glasses is the Director of Education for the district, actually visiting, and you can see right here that his partner is cutting the ribbon of our school. And so where you've got organizations who are in constant conflict with the existing powers that be, we've got political leaders who are cutting the ribbons at our ceremonies. And the difference is just because you're able to understand, engage with, and work through proper channels. That's it. And that's a critical component. Okay. Now, we've got the social capital bullet points. Let's talk about that for a second. I already prefaced it. This is an organization called the Dania Women's Group. Okay, they exist on the ground in Western Kenya. They're extremely poor. I have no idea how they afforded these t-shirts, but t-shirts and stuff like that are actually quite cheap out there. And they've come together for one purpose, and the purpose is because there's a whole lot of women that are dying of HIV that are widows, and there's a whole lot of orphans as a result of it. And they want to be able to do whatever they can to be able to overcome it. And they have been fighting tooth and nail to be able to save the lives of some of these children, to be able to pull together what limited resources they have, to be able to build a collective garden, to be able to provide some food for these children, and ultimately to be able to do their best to be able to take care of them. They know the people, they know the places, they know the kids, they know the political leaders, they know the regions, they know the landowners, they know all of these things. And for an organization like ours to be able to come in and say, we're going to build an orphanage, would be absolutely ludicrous and magnificently inefficient. In contrast, to be able to partner with an existing organization who already has this mandate, who's already massively connected on the ground, to be able to do a lot of fundraising over here, because it's a lot easier for us to raise money out here than it is for them to raise money out there, believe it or not. And then to be able to help them to be able to set this up and help them and work with them to be able to create the protocols and who takes care of the children, how it runs, and where the food comes from, and who purchases it, and who prepares it, and all that kind of stuff. Furthermore, this organization is so serious that they've actually already gone and secured land for free from a landowner, petitioning them to be able to get land donated for the orphanage. And so we're already able to make some progress. This organization's already made a lot of progress, and our objective now is to help them to raise funds for it, so we can take care of as many of these orphans as possible and help to give them a brighter future. And this is actually Jessica in the back of the room right here. She was working with and interviewing some members and taking some information as we were starting to build this partnership. Okay, giving local decision-making power and creating self-perpetuating systems. Critical component here, and this one is the one that requires, I think, the most amount of creativity and the one that can be the most interesting, and it basically involves how do we do something that's going to be able to live forever. And definitely utilizing these other bullet points is going to be a factor of that. But even further, you have to get even more resourceful and creative. And this right here is some photo representations of what we do with business development. I talked about a loan before, so I'm not going to preface that. We had a desire to be able to make microloans available for a lot of the community members who were so intelligent and capable that if they had access to a loan, they could dramatically improve the quality of their lives of their families. And we have a group of individuals for the community who all paid a small fee to be able to be a part of these business development workshops. And rather than even carrying out the business development workshops ourselves, we trained locals. This is a local teacher who we trained to be able to educate in business development and went over the curriculum with him. So they were able to actually do that, and he was able to train to do that himself in their local language. We were able to bring them all together, and then those that were able to graduate from this business development series of workshops were able to create a business plan and apply for a loan through our microcredit program. Now, rather than our organization stepping in to be able to do all the interviewing and to be able to make all the decisions on who gets a loan or not, we actually created a standing committee called our Community Economic Committee. And what they do is they review the loan applicants, knowing the person and their background and their experience with that individual and their history and their reputation and the probability that this person is going to be able to do a good thing with this loan, the probability this person is going to be able to pay back the loan. And they ultimately work to be able to decide who gets the loans and who doesn't get the loans. Now the cooler thing is that when loan members pay back the loans, we've got a whole pipeline of people that are waiting to be able to receive their loans that are applied for it. And so this committee is able to manage the money that comes in from the loan repayment and then to be able to periodically offer new loans as there's sufficient funds for that. So what it actually is, it's a self-perpetuating community-governed microcredit program, which is incredibly resourceful, very, very exciting, and all that we really do is we help to organize these workshops, organize the committee, and insert several $1,000s that then ultimately get used as that microcredit fund. And then we let the community be able to do the rest and empower them to be able to do that and develop those systems and either teach other communities to be able to do those systems. And theoretically, this doesn't even require a non-governmental organization to be able to step in, because theoretically, community members could actually pool resources in a savings fund, turn that into a microcredit fund, and use that to give loans to their community members in order to build businesses. It can be entirely self-contained. I'm going to actually click through a couple slides here, and I hope that you're patient with me. I decided to take a little bit more time talking about these first principles because I just felt like it was the right thing to be able to do. So the last 4 letters of our acronym are comprehensive, and that refers to the fact that comprehensive roots require comprehensive, or complex roots require comprehensive solutions. And even further than that, it's really critical to understand the roots of the issues. Because if we go in there thinking that hunger is the problem, we've totally missed the mark. Hunger is a manifestation of a lot of deeper problems. If we go in there and think that AIDS is the problem, we've missed the mark. AIDS and AIDS epidemic is actually a manifestation of many deeper roots that have all converged to be able to create these things as humanitarian crises. And I'm just going to quickly go through these so you can see. These are the roots of rural poverty. And I'll let you read these sentences on your own just quickly as we go through. If we deal in one sector, and hopefully we're dealing with a root issue and not a leaf issue, but even if we deal with a root issue and we only deal with one of those things, think about how that's going to affect the tree of poverty if you kill one of the roots. Almost nothing at all, because all those other things are still there, and they're still reinforcing the issues. So, like uprooting a weed or a nuisance of a tree, you have to be able to get it at the roots and be able to separate those roots and cut them off. And so, comprehensive as the C in SHAP is critical to be able to know that in working with a community, you have to be able to understand the different roots of their issues and to be able to be comprehensive in nature to address them all simultaneously if you have the resources. And that actually separates us from a lot of other organizations. The H in humanitarian, it simply refers to this. We develop poor people by developing poor people. Not by building up things, not by setting up infrastructure. These things are so important, they really, really are. But it's important to be able to know that we help people to overcome poverty by developing an individual, by giving that individual information, resources, training, capacity building. And the humans themselves are so capable that if you can give them these things, they can take care of the details. Our focus on developing humans. There's a wonderful woman who received a loan for a boat. She ultimately hired a couple strapping young men to be able to use that boat for fishing, and she'd be able to start a business and provide for herself and her family. Assistance, critical here, identifying their problem, or helping a community to be able to identify their own problems, and helping that community by helping them to discover their own solutions. That's what assistance really means.